Hi, it's me again, Amy, and I'm here with my friend Buck, and we're putting some fun back into our dysfunctional lives. So, first, I want to ask you, Buck, what was the most dysfunctional thing that happened to you this week?
Um, they have here on Wellington, they on this street that's near me. Um, During the summer, it's all blocked off. So this last weekend, they had a festival of uh, Cabana Sucre, which is Sugar Shack. This is when the maple comes out.
Hmm,
So when you're driving in the country, you'll see they're very high tech now. They have blue pipes that go from tree to tree to tree to tree to tree. So they just kind of suck it all out.
yeah,
Whereas you used to have a spigot and then do the cans and do the so, but now it's all very high tech. And so they had Cabana Sucre on the street that was blocked off, but it was mostly just the restaurants that exist having an outdoor kiosk. So, and when I went through it, people were just kind of waiting in line for food.
yeah. Not very
There was like,
exciting.
yeah, there was one. There were a couple of stages, and one had a French singing group, and there was somebody clogging, and you could sign up for clogging lessons and stuff like that. But other than that, it was just food, and it was just like it reminded me of the street fairs in New York, where there's a street fair on West 23rd, there's a street fair on West 86th. They're all the same. It's all the
Yeah,
same people. It's all the
yeah,
same. So the dysfunctional thing was after a while, with people just standing in line, nobody's moving. You're trying to walk on the sidewalk, or it's all blocked, and I started to get like
yeah,
panicky.
yeah,
And finally, I said to Mario, I think we were there a half hour. I said, I have to go home. I
yeah,
can't deal with these people who aren't moving. Why aren't they moving? And,
yeah,
I don't know if that's a control issue. Like I wanted them to move, but I do that with people. I used to do that with people in New York who would be
yeah,
looking up and, and I'd go sidewalk. If you're
yeah.
not walking, move to the side. That's what
Exactly.
sidewalk
Get
means.
out of the way.
Get
Yeah.
out of the way. So, what was your dysfunctional moment?
Oh, it's so bad. I, uh, I fell down the Timu rabbit hole. You know, like Timu's like that cheap shit from China, and I was like, well, let me see what they have, and there's some decent deals, and I got some things. And then the more you buy, they send you these things that say, oh, you've earned this free item or whatever. And they at first they actually have like some free stuff that you can, like, you pick the things that you want for free, and and they send it and you get free stuff. And then after that it's like, okay, if you want more free shit, you got to spend more money. And like, so I kept going, okay, well, maybe if I buy this and this. And then finally we're trying to like fix up our patio in the back, and we've got it, like, we redid the whole thing and it's looking really nice. Now we need to get some, like, make it a nice space for the summer now. So I'm
Yeah,
buying, like, we bought an outdoor fire pit, and we're going to get some Adirondack chairs, whatever, you
right.
know. So I saw they had this little statue, or like a metal flamingo that's like that was a table. And I was like, that's really cute. Even if it's really small, it could just sit by, somebody could put their drink on it or whatever.
Right.
So I got it. And then when it actually came, it wasn't the actual statue. It was the picture of the statue on a metal frame. And I was like, I did not want that. And so finally I was like, okay. And they'd send you texts like multiple times a day, like free stuff, free
Oh
stuff.
my God.
And I was like, I have got to stop this. I probably spent a good $200 and got some good stuff and some crap, but some
Yeah.
decent things. But I finally was like, I just have to delete this app, because otherwise I'll keep getting these texts and I'll keep wanting to buy more shit, and I
Yeah.
just have to stop. So that was my dysfunctional thing. So now I have like a picture of a flamingo. I got some, there's some decent things, but like little tote bags or whatever, but
Yeah.
mostly it's just crap, and I have to quit doing that.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
makeup mirrors, there's useful things, but I could get that stuff. I wouldn't buy that if it wasn't the draw of the free shit, and they do it just enough. So there's something called intermittent reinforcement in behavioral therapy. Intermittent reinforcement means that you get the reward once in a while. That's what happens when you go to the casino. You get intermittent reinforcement. You know,
Yeah.
you win once in a while, just enough to make you keep going back and you try to get more. So that's what was going on. Intermittent reinforcement. If you buy this, then we get this free thing. And then one time the free thing was like a sticker. And I was like, no. so anyway, so I have to like watch. I'm not really an addictive personality, but I could fall down a slope into addiction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So today I thought we'd talk about uh, what you have for support when you have mental and physical challenges.
Huh,
And sometimes it goes to man's best friend, which is either a dog or a cat,
generally.
or some other support animal. I mean, you have service dogs for emotional balance now, um,
Yeah.
that you can take on a plane and you can, So, um, Amy has a very interesting cat.
Yeah. Well, he's just a fun cat. So my we during COVID, I was my husband was still going to his shop because because what he does he could do by himself. But I was only seeing some clients virtually, so I was just really housebound and by myself. And I was like, I want a cat. I want a pet because we had a dog, and he. I wrote a poem about my dog every day for a year. One year, that was really something. I keep saying I'm going to make it into a book, but you know, best laid plans. But anyway, but our dog is dead, and it died, several years before the pandemic. And I was like, I want a cat. So we hunted around. We found this cat, and they already had a name for him. His name was Finch, and I was like, but I want to give him a name that I want to give it. And I said Huckleberry Finch would be kind of cute. And I was telling my mom that, and she goes, "What about Atticus Finch?" And I went, Catechus Finch, Catechus Finch. So his name is Catechus Finch, and he sort of will look at me when I say it, but mostly he doesn't answer to his name. But he's just a really good. He's really cute. He's really fun. He likes to ride around on my walker thing. So that's always kind of fun. So, but he was definitely necessary during the pandemic. He was really helpful to just have him around. Just like even though he's not like somebody that you talk to, you can still talk to them, and it feels like
Right.
company, you know. And he will walk past my screen once in a while. This is his sleep time. Like in between when we get up in the morning and lunch, he usually just sleeps that whole time, and then he gets up in the afternoon. But if I'm not sitting in my usual chair. I have a chair I sit in, and when I'm sitting there, the cat will be on my lap. So, and then I use it as an excuse not to do anything. So that's yeah. But he's been great. But I've definitely had my share of pets in my day. So I know you had a really good cat. So what about your?
Well, the cat I had for 18 years was Twister, and um, he was really. I always say he's the cat that kind of saved my life. I was kind of going in a downward spiral when I moved back to New York. Um, partying too much and like looking for guys and stuff like that. And then I come home and he was so sad that I just immediately stopped doing that. I barely went out. And he came to Montreal with me. I always say I came to Montreal with my cat, my computer, and my clothes, the three C's. That's
Yeah,
really all I had. And all I had to
I
do
need
was have papers for him to get into, he had to have a rabies
Canada.
shot. That was it. He had to
Yeah,
have a rabies shot. I had to prove it. Uh, Told the guy I was coming for 2 weeks, even though I didn't even have a suitcase. I had all my clothes packed in the back up to I couldn't see out the rear window.
yeah,
So he was like, "Oh, so you're here for a couple of weeks?" And I went, "Okay,
yeah. Sounds good. Yeah,
okay." So, and with Twister, then I found Matilda, and they did not get along. Twister didn't get along with any other cat. And when I would be really depressed and sad, I would sit on the end of my bed and cry like this, and he would do
yeah.
the
Pat,
pause like
patting your
that
yeah,
because I was making a sound, and he would
yeah,
put his paws here like that.
yeah.
That's really something that he did,
Like
and
Jedi
he
mind tricking you into feeling better.
I think it's also interesting that, um, to me, my perception is that the cat, especially if it's just you, you know,
Hmm.
owning it, the cat takes on your personality.
Yeah, to
So
some
he's
degree.
very difficult at times, very mad, very like, I don't know, had an attitude,
Yeah.
and definitely had that for me. And Mario always said that, well, he's your cat, you even though he liked my ex-husband better
Yeah.
than he liked me. So I left him here the last 2 years of his life, 3 years
Yeah.
after COVID, because I went to Vancouver, and I'm not going to take him around again, even though he's lived everywhere.
Everywhere.
I
Yeah.
mean, he had a pretty good life. He lived pretty
Well
much
traveled cat.
everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
we lived in the country for a while, and he had the whole place to
You'd go
roam
anywhere.
around, and so did Matilda. And
Yeah.
uh, we lived in Toronto, and he had a front and backyard, and he could walk down the
Nice.
street, which always
Yeah.
made me tense because I was afraid he'd disappear, and then it was Matilda who disappeared. And when she
Yeah.
disappeared for 2 weeks, I mean, I just, I was looking for
It's
her. I
sad.
had flyers. Yeah. So pets are very
They're important.
empathetic. Like, they
Yes.
know when you're really, really sad. And sometimes Twister, who hardly ever slept near my neck, would
Yeah.
come and just lay on my neck if
Yeah.
I was in bed, very depressed.
Because he wanted to comfort you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So I
You
had him
know,
for 18 years.
uh-huh. That's a long time. It's
Yeah,
sad when somebody we've had, it doesn't feel right anymore. Yeah.
yeah.
Sarge didn't live that long. We had him maybe 9 years, and I had a cat prior to when I got married. That was she was the runt of the litter, and she was really stupid. But she was a great cat. She was just not bright. This cat, Catechus is really smart. He can do a lot of things, but that cat whose name was the Kitty, I just never called her anything but the Kitty, so that was her name. But she was really dumb. She would yeah. She was a sweet sweet cat, just very very nice, very shy. I mean, Catechus is not shy. That's the thing. If you're here, he's in your face. He wants to get to know you, and smell you, and he puts his nose right on your nose. He's very friendly. But the Kitty was very standoffish. And actually, my kid called her creepers because he said she used to creep around here. And she had a heart attack and died when he was like 6 or something. And
Oh,
here's his when I said he said, "Where is Creepers? I can't find Creepers." And I said, "Eli, she was very old. Creeper was very old and very sick, and she just couldn't live anymore, and she died today." And he went like this. His face went,
uh,
"Can we get a fish?" immediately, immediately. So
can we get
anyway, but it wasn't really his cat. That was my cat from like before I was
yeah.
even married. So so she was around. She was sweet, and then we got the dog, and but my favorite pet, and this wasn't really a supportive pet. I mean, my old cat was sort of my support cat in a way because I lived by myself, and then when we got married, she moved in, but um, and then Sarge was my son's dog, really. But my favorite pet, which is not a support animal, was when we lived in Jefferson City. We lived in a big house on the campus of a children's home, so we had a lot of land, and there was like a big field in the back. My dad used to plant corn and shit back there. But so we got this. Oh, one of the kids from the children's home had been on a trip somewhere, and he picked up these eggs and he put them under his pillow and he hatched them, and it turned out to be two ducks that hatched in his room, and he couldn't keep them obviously, so we got them. So that we named them Henrietta, no, Henry and Henrietta, I think, or it may have been Martha, but it was Henry and something. And she was a big white duck, and he was a mallard, like a teal with the teal head, that kind of thing. And so what she actually laid her own eggs and was sitting on the eggs. And one night, a raccoon came and ate her and ate all the eggs. And so poor
Oh,
Herman was widowed, and so he bonded to my dad. Dad was his dad. That was his person. So on the campus of the children's home, the main building was there. Our house was there. He was the resident director, is what it was called. So he lived on campus. So when he would walk up to the main building in the morning, the duck would follow him up there. And he used to go into the main building up at the front. And my dad said he would hear over the intercom, Dr. Bauer, please come get your duck. Because he'd be wandering around in the main building. So, and when we would leave the campus, he wouldn't leave the campus, but he would fly alongside the car, looking into the car windows while we left the campus. And then he'd go back home. And then the best one was my grandparents came to visit. And and for some reason, Herman decided that he really liked my grandpa, and he would go and land on my grandpa's head. And my grandpa, who was um, really smart, and he's a minister too, along with all my other relatives. But the duck would land on his, and he would go, "Come get this goddamn duck off my head!" so, so Herman was great. And then when we moved from Jefferson City, we couldn't keep the duck. Obviously, there was no room for the duck in Jefferson City. When we moved to Jefferson City from St. Louis, um, the duck went to go live in, and his name was Herman. So where do you think he went to live in Missouri?
Herman, Missouri.
He moved to Herman, Missouri. So Herman moved to Herman and lived a good, healthy life in Missouri, teamed up. But at one point too, we had these geese that my dad could. He was an animal lover. He just loved all creatures, and would rescue you. The only creature he didn't rescue was fish, because we would eat them. But otherwise, like, we always had animals. So we had these geese that had hatched on the children's home, and they came to live in the backyard until one of there was a mom and two daughter ducks, and the mom duck tried to Herman wanted to get frisky with the female ducks, and the big goose didn't like that, so she tried to drown him in the kiddie pool that we had back there in the backyard. And so we ate them. So then we renamed them Dinner, and we ate them, and they were delicious. So but poor Herman was lonely, but that was when he really got. So anyway, that was my most fun pet. Even though he wasn't really a pet, he was sort of. And then we had a cat we named him Mittens because he had 4 white paws. But he was, thinking in hindsight, that cat was enormous. So when we couldn't keep him either when we left the campus, so somebody adopted him and renamed him Bear because he was so big. So anyway, but those were some of my most fun memory pets. But the ones that were more my support animals were my cat that I had when I lived in Danville, and then this cat. And I wouldn't say the dog was a support animal. He used to go with Dana to his work, to his shop every day, and like a lot of people would come in just to see the dog.
Well,
So yeah, it's understandable.
Animals are easier to communicate with and to
Yeah,
show love to than somebody that you actually live with and that you love.
sometimes.
But
Yeah,
animals are easier to, and dogs, they say that dogs love you unconditionally. Cats may have a problem.
yeah,
They're always
yeah,
scrutinizing you. They're always like, what
yeah,
do you? But cats are very influential too, in that they have this sort of hypnotic gaze, and they
yeah.
can, like, when I would be working on stuff for my light opera, and I'd be doing videos on the computer on the iMac, and I could see him in the bedroom, and he'd have his paws crossed like that, and he would look at me like, sleep,
Yeah.
sleep, sleep. And eventually most of the time I gave into it and said, well, maybe a
Of
little.
course.
And then I wake
Yeah.
up 3 hours later, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's out on the deck looking at birds,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And I'm like, I've been passed out way too long because I have way too
Right.
much work to do. I'm like, oh, got me again. We had a garden, and our dogs would go out there and garden with my dad. I
Yeah.
just didn't want anything to do with it because it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, who's going to eat all this food? So my mother would try to give it away, and we gave it to the neighbors. But there was a point where it was just kind of rotting, because
Yeah.
my mother
Couldn't
decided to
eat it all.
can. So before she canned everything, she cooked it till it was just mush. So we had all these
Mush.
fresh vegetables that were just mush. So all the vitamins had been cooked out of them.
Right. Right.
never heard of steaming them or anything like that. So,
Leaving some crunch there. Yeah.
well, I try to steam vegetables now,
Yeah.
just so they're
Yeah.
kind of soft to chew,
Yeah.
but not mushy. They
Right.
have a little bit of a bite to them. So,
Yeah. I like
but
to roast them. I think roasting them is better because it brings
yeah,
out more of the flavor, caramelizes them a little bit.
yeah,
But yeah, just steaming them's good too.
yeah. So, whatever dog we had would go out the garden. A lot of times it was our black cat, Sam. um, that my father really liked black cats, and he would just kind of roam around the garden while my father was. And I think my
Huh.
father was depressed because he slept when he was home. He slept most of the time he was home. If he wasn't
Yeah.
yelling, he
Could very
was
well
asleep.
be.
So the cat would always come around his recliner. I think he was really the emotional support. My father didn't
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
to
I'm
people,
sure that's true.
so I think that was his sort of lifeline. And
Yeah.
every time we got a new black cat, he would name it Sam. So,
Okay.
so
So it was Sam, Sam 1, Sam 2,
yeah,
Sam 3.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that's good because every time I show people pictures of Catechus and he's black because he just has a couple of white spots on him, mostly he's black, and everybody go, we had a black cat too. His name was Blackie. Almost, like
yeah, yeah.
so many times, so many people say my cat's name was Blackie. Did you? Like, no, I'm not going to call him that. But we did have a raccoon that lived in with us when we were at. My dad used to have a little cabin out on Highway P, so, but he caught a raccoon, and we called him Racky Raccoon. So that wasn't really very original either. But and Racky was evil. Raccoons are mean. They are
Yeah,
not pleasant animals. You cannot tame them. I mean, I guess there are people who have them, but they're just kind of mean.
yeah.
So
I
yeah,
had
you
mine.
want your emotional support animal to not be mean. Oh, and then when I was in the dorm, I was going to say this too. This is sort of a more emotional support animal that lived in the dorm that wasn't really supposed to be there, I don't think. But this cat would just go around to different people's rooms, and finally, the problem is like cats. Like the fallacy is that cats like to drink milk, and they do, but they can't digest the milk the way it is now. They can only have milk
Well,
right out of the cow. They have a
yeah,
really hard time digesting the stuff we do to our milk. So they usually and then they end up shitting everywhere, and that's what happened to that cat. But the funny part of it was that when you're in we were a bunch of music majors in the dorm, and then a few other people, but mostly music majors, and we had to do this thing called solfege, which is every week you get a tune, you know what it is, and you have to put the do re mi's to it. So you'd have to sing the song with the do re mi fa sol, on only knowing them all, a different song. That's easy, but you had to do it with a different song. So we kept talking about solfege, and my roommate, who was not a music major, goes, "What is this soulfish thing you guys are always thinking about? Always talking about? What is soulfish?" So we named the cat Soulfish, which I think is actually a really good name for a cat. So
yeah.
at least
That
that's
is
what we called it. I'm
that's
sure he had
very.
multiple names.
It's
Yeah.
actually a good name. Yeah.
Yeah, Soulfish is a good name for a
We
cat.
had a dog that between dogs, we had a dog that I think I told you this would come for a little visit for like a week, maybe
Yeah.
2 weeks, and then disappear for like a week or 2 weeks, whatever like that, and then he would
Yeah.
just appear on a doorstep again. And that's when we realized that my mother really needed a dog because she
Yeah.
put all this love out, love we weren't getting, but love out on this dog.
Right.
And
Right.
then she's the one that found out where the dog goes. So she was having lunch out in Rainbow Circle
Yeah.
Drive, and here comes the dog.
Yeah.
She's like, "That's my dog. That's Charlie." And the woman goes, "That's our dog.
Yeah.
That's our dog." And she goes, "No, this dog comes for like a week or two." And she goes, "This dog
That phrase.
disappears for a week or two." I forgot
Yeah.
what the dog's real name was. I named it Charlie.
Yeah. Charlie
So
was a good name. Yeah.
Charlie's a good name for a dog. But we
Yeah.
realized that all the dog had to do was cross out of her backyard and across the divided highway.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I don't
Is
think
that Highway
after it
50?
was divided, it stopped being divided, I think, after the country club.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not
I think it
sure.
does. Yeah. It used
So
to.
the dog would walk across. There's woods,
Uh huh.
there's the cemetery, and then there's the golf course from the country
Okay. Yeah.
club.
Yeah.
and then you walk through the golf course, and you actually go through the fence, and it's our neighbors who lived across the street. It's their farm, and
Yeah.
he would just so it's not like he was walking along a road.
Oh no, he was just crossing behind things, crossing
Yeah,
through neighborhoods or whatever. Yeah.
but then when we found out that the dog actually owned was belonging to this woman, we just started
Yeah.
taking it back to her,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so he stopped coming. And my father realized that he said we should get a dog.
Yeah.
So we got a dog, and I wanted a new cat, and my brother wanted a cat. So we got, a peekapoo,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's
Pekingese
cute.
poodle. And we got
Those are
two
cute.
black cats because we could only
Yeah.
get black cats.
Okay.
So yeah, and I named the dog Buffy, and I named my cat Jody
That's perfect.
from
Buffy and
Family.
Jody. Yeah, people won't get now when you call him Buffy, they think Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Yeah,
but Buffy and Jody were the twins on
yeah,
Family. What was that show called?
Family Affair.
Family Affair. Yeah.
Da, 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 da,
You
da,
know,
da.
Buffy died of a drug overdose when she was like
Yeah,
17
I know.
after that show, and I think Jody just became really ultra religious or something. Anyway,
Oh, I don't
but
know. I
they were
don't
the
know.
twins.
Yeah. It's funny to
Yeah.
see them, especially Johnny Whitaker, on other shows. So
Yeah. Yeah.
in Bewitched, he was Jack and the Beanstalk. He was Jack.
Yeah.
So
Did not know
he was
that's
on
very
a couple of
that's very
times.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really
So I
funny.
want to tell one more animal story. And it wasn't even my pet, but so we used to go to the Deersings, Jerry and Billy Deersing. They lived on a farm, and a Christmas tree farm actually. But they also raised cows just to for food basically. So we were there was this they named their animals were all named after musical instruments. So the cow was bassoon, and kind of went there. I kind of got to know bassoon and stuff like that. And then one day we were there for a picnic, and we're eating these really good burgers. And my sister's getting ready to take a big bite of this burger, and they were really fresh and delicious. And she was like, "Where's bassoon?" Right there. We were eating bassoon. So I'm surprised she didn't become a vegetarian after that.